Dobrodošli. Ovo je Jazeera Svijeta, ja sam Azra Hadžić. Ove priče izdvajamo. Više od 100 dana od ubistva novinarke Shireen Abu Akleh. Jazeera Mreža pokrenula kampanju, tražeći pravdu i odgovornost za njeno ubistvo. Broj ubijenih ili nestalih žena na sjeveru Meksika porastao za 40% u proteklih 5 godina. To je pojedine potaklo da pokrenu ženski taksi. Prkos i otpor, građani Kijeva pokušavaju živjeti normalnim životom. Novinarku Jazeere Shireen Abu Akleh ubile su izraelske snage 11. maja dok je izvještavala o napadu izraelske vojske na okupirani grad Dženin na zapadnoj obali. Jazeera Mreža je pokrenula kampanju Pravda za Shireen povodom 100 dana od ubistva, tražeći odgovornost za njenu smrt. I dalje se teško pomiriti s njenim ubistvom, kažu kolege. Nije to bilo samo novinarstvo, bilo joj je uistinu stalo do ljudi, mjesta i problema o kojim je izvještavala, poručuje njena kolegica Arva Ibrahim.
We've seen Palestinians come together. We've seen them speak up about what they're experiencing. So while it's been very sad, it's also been a moment of togetherness and strength. I'm Arwa Ibrahim, a senior journalist with Al Jazeera English. And between us, it's still very difficult to come to terms with the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh. I remember my first reaction was I just screamed. I was instantly put into this shock and sadness. It's been a huge loss for us all. I myself didn't grow up in the Arab world. I grew up in an Arab household. And her face and her voice were always on our TV screen. And then when I grew up and became a journalist myself and then joined the same network that she worked in and eventually met her in Palestine as I was reporting there, it was a huge honor. I think what's most memorable about her for me is her very calm and collected voice, which was consistent regardless of how horrific the event around her may have been. It wasn't just about the journalism. She deeply cared for the people and the place and the cause that she reported on, and I think we all recognize that. She was definitely an icon, and it's really still difficult to come to terms with her loss. She was a Palestinian Christian, but that was something that never was important. She cared about Palestinian unity and the Palestinian cause. As I was sitting at the cemetery where she was buried, a Muslim man who'd come all the way from Nazareth in the north, he said, "I'm here to pay my respects and to read the Fatiha, which is the opening chapter of the Muslim holy book." And I think that was very reflective of how it didn't matter what faith she belonged to. Since Shireen Abu Akleh's death, it's been a reflection of how difficult it is for Palestinians to live their daily lives. Since May 2021, there were protests about residents who were being removed and evacuated from their own homes in East Jerusalem and Sheikh Jarrah. There was the 11-day assault on Gaza. There were protests about restrictions on Palestinians going to pray at the Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan. We've seen increasing numbers of Palestinians being killed. They're killed just at checkpoints. Palestinian journalists are killed while they're reporting. Shireen Abu Akleh was a very famous, known journalist, and yet she was killed. According to a lot of the investigations that were launched by human rights organizations and media organizations, she was targeted. It wasn't a random bullet that killed her, she was targeted and killed.
We find that the shots that killed Abu Akleh came from Israeli security forces and not from indiscriminate firing by armed Palestinians.
There is huge hope and commitment to making sure that this does become a turning point, to try and make sure that what happened is not repeated. Whether that will happen or not is for us to wait and see, but that intention is there and that hope is definitely there.
Broj ubijenih ili nestalih žena na sjeveru Meksika porastao je za gotovo 40% u proteklih 5 godina. Samo prošle godine u toj državi zabilježeno je 1015 slučajeva femicida. To je motiviralo jednu ženu u gradu Monterreju da pokrene isključivo žensku taksi službu s garancijom djevojkama i ženama da će sigurno stići na destinaciju. Ovo je njena priča.
Mi nombre es Dulce María Campos González. Pertenecemos a Gears Taxi Monterrey. Somos una iniciativa familiar, mi hija y una servidora. Nos dedicamos al traslado de chicas, de mujeres, cualquier edad, para que lleguen a su destino seguros. El primer fin de semana nos volvimos tendencia. Empezamos con reacciones de like, de me encanta, y acabamos para el día lunes con 42,000 veces compartidas. Eso nos llevó a pensar, wow, qué alegría, pero la siguiente contraparte era... Lo que nos llevó a iniciar este servicio fue el miedo, la inseguridad, la soledad, la desprotección que tenemos. Tenemos una población arriba de 3,000 personas, mujeres, que las estamos atendiendo a través de un WhatsApp. Las redes sociales, Facebook, Messenger, están invadidas. Bastantes chicas que se suben a nuestro servicio te cuentan el testimonio, por qué están con nosotros, fueron acosadas, fueron maltratadas, fueron abusadas. La que nos cuentan...
Hay demasiados casos.
Nosotros pensamos lo siguiente, estamos convencidas de cualquier actividad que estés realizando. Se llama Gears Taxi de manera social, pero para mí se llama Dulce Celeste, porque va dedicada para ella, para el cuidado de ella. Quisiera que existieran muchos Gears Taxis en cada esquina para que la cuidaran. Cada chica que se suba...
Vjetar u kosi, osjećaj slobode i kontrole nad svojim životima. To im pruža vožnja motociklima. U narednim minutama kratkog filma pogledajte kraljice motora iz Kenije, njihovo putovanje otvorenim cestama, ljubav prema motociklizmu i avanturi, te osjećaj ushićenja i neovisnosti koje takav način života nudi.
I've always been a bit of an oddball. I'm a bit of a risk taker. The freedom it gives you, the sense of being able to control your world. Let's just say if I could bottle that feeling and take it with me anytime I'm feeling a bit low, I would.
Hey, Chico.
Hey, Vicky, how are you? Are you coming to Karen? We meet with the Karen group, or you'll come to the station directly?
I wanted to use, there's a new bypass, there's a new road between cooperatives here in Karen and Go.
Okay. The back route. Okay. This is when you really get to let your hair down. I believe that we create our future by what we think about. Positive thoughts do bring about a positive future. And if at any time I start to feel like I'm being dragged down, sucked down by the negativity that, of course, will always be around us, I get on my bike, go on a ride, and by the time I come back, I'm good. A mom, a wife, and I am a biker. I'm a biker mom. I belong to a motorcycle club called the Throttle Queens. I'm a founding member of the Throttle Queens. We're just a small, tight-knit group of women who are united by our love for motorcycling. We've taken up road safety as our big thing. And this is Kenya. We also have donkeys and all manner of cocotenis and all that. But the roads have been built mainly with cars in mind. So the idea that we have is to sensitize the public, to share the road. The Throttle Queens, we have done a lot of trips in and out of the country. The furthest we've ever been is to Rwanda. We've also done a couple to Uganda and to Tanzania.
Okay. Who's leading? Who's sweeping? You lead? But do not disappear. I'll tell you when to disappear.
We as the Throttle Queens also go to high schools to mentor the girls, to help them realize that they can be anything they want to be when they grow up. It's completely, 100% exhilarating. Ride the wind and just be free. To any young girl, I will tell them that if she has a very big dream, she should go out and do it because she will do it well. She will succeed and she should not be afraid.
Odrastajući u Evropi i SAD-u kao pripadnik manjine, oduvijek se osjećao drugačijim, odnosno da ga drugi tako vide. Međutim, radeći na francuskom govornom području, shvatio je da nije usamljen u tome. Sa sjedištem u Senegalu, Al Jazeerin reporter Nicolas Hack nas vodi kroz svoje iskustvo izvještavanja iz Zapadne Afrike, regije koja određuje vlastiti glas i identitet, što mu je za uzvrat pomoglo da pronađe svoj.
When a brown person talks about areas in Africa,
the security forces have failed to enter.
It somehow doesn't sit well for some people. Can I be blunt? It seems to me that white journalists from Western countries have some sort of authority when they're covering the rest of the world. One of the challenges is to grab the microphone from the usual players. I'm Nicholas Hawk, correspondent for West Africa, et entre vous et moi, j'ai trouvé ma voix en couvrant l'Afrique francophone. So, I'm brown, of course, and a lot of people ask me, how come you speak French so well? That's because people have this implicit idea speaking French means being white, maybe being black, but being brown and speaking French doesn't sit well. I realized with people that look completely different to me physically, we shared a common understanding. People were quick to define what French-speaking Africa was in the ways that felt uncomfortable for the people who live in this region. Felt in the same ways that people try to define me versus the way that I want to define myself. And that resonated to me. There was this romanticism from these Western or white journalists to perpetuate this stereotype about the countries that are reporting in, that it's difficult, that it's hard. There is so much that the world has to learn from developing countries in Africa. Before COVID, the continent experienced several epidemics. People were accustomed to lockdowns, understood social distancing, wearing masks. The reality is that people here have experience with viruses and tropical diseases. And that's where my parents come in. My mother and my father devoted their life to research in tropical medicine. I saw how throughout the years, the funding for research in tropical medicine, in diseases that affect poor people, fizzled out. This pandemic has revealed that we're all interconnected, that research for viruses and finding cures is as important for people living in these poor countries as it is for people living in rich countries. There's so much to be told about the stories and narrative here that you can only hear, I think, if you yourself are also a minority. The Central African Republic is not only one of the worst humanitarian crises, it's also one of the most neglected conflicts. So many people are in need of dire humanitarian aid, are living hostage in the hands of armed groups and warlords. And we met one of them, a warlord in the city of Bangui, in the capital. We had a security advisor who told me, like, listen, we're only going to be able to protect one of you if you start shooting. We had decided that we would only speak in English and switch to French as soon as the camera switched on. And as soon as I switched to French, he instantaneously connected.
Milices qui sont là au Médecin en train de protéger les populations. Ils n'ont pas peur de nous.
And that's when not speaking French helped me, and speaking French helped me as well. In Francophone Africa, people's voices were being brushed aside. There's a sense amongst many people throughout French-speaking West Africa that time has come to redefine this relationship with the former colonial power. And it's also redefining the relationship towards this common currency, this legacy of colonialism called the CFA. A percentage of this common currency is held in Paris. And there's a sense for many young people here, they want to reappropriate this currency. They want to regain control of their money. The French language, it's the colonial language, but it's also the language that is being used to fight neo-colonialism in this region. So there are movements across the region that use their common language French to fight or to question the power in place. In Senegal, you have something called Y'en a marre, which is a civil society movement. In Burkina Faso, you have another one called Le Ballet Citoyen.
Vive la France qui respecte les Maliens et les Africains!
It's become a tool through social media to unite civil society actors, and that is the common language of dissent. The future of the French language is not in Canada or in France. The heart of the French language is here in Africa.
Godinu nakon što su talibani preuzeli vlast, afganistanska ekonomija gotovo je propala. Sjedinjene Američke Države su zamrznule 9 milijardi dolara centralne banke Afganistana, ostavljajući zemlju bez prijeko potrebnih deviznih rezervi, što je dodatno produbilo siromaštvo. Međutim, talibani ukazuju na određeni napredak tokom njihove uprave.
Prijevoz je jedini posao koji još cvjeta u Afganistanu. Prevozeći raznu robu, od voća do ruda, hiljade kamiona saobraćaju kroz uske prolaze i granične prijelaze. Ali čak i to je usporilo od kad su talibani preuzeli vlast. Sve veći broj Afganistanaca bori se nekako prehraniti porodice. Nakon 4 decenije uspostavljen je mir, ali ljudi i dalje čekaju na njegove blagodati. Ekonomija koja se oslanjala na donacije kolabirala je kada je pomoć obustavljena, a 9 milijardi dolara Afganistanske centralne banke zamrznuto. Ujedinjeni narodi su zatražili pomoć od 4,4 milijarde dolara, ali jedva da je osigurana i polovina od toga.
Hundreds of thousands of people have lost their jobs. An estimated 90% of this population lives below the poverty line. But Taliban leaders say they are going to resurrect the economy and are on target to make $2.5 billion this year.
Ministarstvo financija pozvalo je međunarodne organizacije da izvrše reviziju i uvjere se u njihove tvrdnje da u zemlji više nema korupcije.
The budget and target is completely dependent on our own revenue resources. We have generated about $800 million from customs, $400 million from non-tax revenues, which mostly come from mines.
Rudarstvo je važan dio afganistanske ekonomije i zapošljava gotovo 1 milion ljudi. To, osim rudara, uključuje trgovce, prijevoznike i izvoznike.
معدن او پټرولیم وزارت په خپل فعالیت چې کله آغاز وکړي تقریبا زموږ یو کال.
Ostvarenje tog i sličnih planova zavisit će primarno od međunarodnog priznanja talibanske vlasti u Afganistanu. Dotad će još više Afganistanaca morati kupovati stari hljeb na ovoj tržnici, gdje obećanja o budućnosti malo znače.
Dok se u istočnim i južnim dijelovima Ukrajine borbe nastavljaju, u glavnom gradu stanovnici pokušavaju živjeti normalno. Ljudi posjećuju restorane, barove, uživaju u parkovima. Pojedini u Kijevu ipak osjećaju krivnju i tugu jer njihov život teče gotovo kao prije ruske invazije, dok je dio zemlje i dalje pogođen razaranjem i raseljavanjem.
Kijev prkosno slavi. Stanovnici su vani, aktivni, ne pokazuju strah. Nazovite to novim normalnim. Mjesecima su se ljudi krili u skloništima plašeći se ruske invazije. ali ukrajinske trupe su ih odbile i sada je front daleko.
The normal life slowly coming back to Kyiv. We open right now much more restaurants, cafe. It's the business coming back and slowly starting to work. But it's illusion. Blue sky, sunshine, summer, and we have to never forget this couple of hundred kilometers east of Kyiv. It's hell. It's big battle where our patriots defend our country.
Poznata gradska opera je otvorila vrata, ali niko nije zaboravio da je zemlja u ratu.
We're not in Kharkiv, which is under shelling every day. We're not, it's like in Donbass somewhere. So we're not scared.
Turisti iz drugih dijelova Ukrajine se vraćaju u glavni grad.
This might be a war zone, but it doesn't have to feel like one, and that's the point. These people are out despite the occupation.
Koliko god da je teško, stanovnici kažu da život ide dalje.
I had to flee to other countries because it was too scary to stay in Ukraine. But now I'm back and it's still spooky every day when we have air raids, sirens. Everything has changed, but we need to move forward and to live.
Za mlade u Kijevu rejv zabave se nastavljaju, iako sada počinju u 17 sati kako bi završile do policijskog sata. Usred rata, slavlje, prkosni pokušaj da se živi, normalno se nastavlja.
Svakog augusta od 1947. održava se Edinburški festival Fringe. Najveći je svjetski umjetnički festival koji ove, kao i prethodnih godina, obiluje pričama o identitetu i pripadanju. Kako izvještava reporter Johna Hall, rat u Ukrajini novi je izvor materijala za izvođače.
British passport. Name? Shireen Abu Akleh. Born Kuwait. He looks like me.
Identitet je vječna edinburška tema sa mnoštvom predstava o migraciji i izbjeglicama, bezbjednosti i pripadanju, pogotovo u godini rata.
Someone comes along in 1999 to sort it all out. You know who he is. He's who you think of when you think of Russia today.
Imperijalna zabluda baca sjenku na postsovjetski Arktik u Nightlandsu, psihološkom trileru o Rusiji i usponu Vladimira Putina. To što se dogodilo decenijama kasnije, ruska invazija na Ukrajinu, tema je češko-ukrajinskog cirkuskog i plesnog čina Boom, predstave o mladalačkoj izdržljivosti pred nevoljama.
It goes boom because it's explosion of young energy. Also we have a lot of traditions in the show, Czech and Ukrainian traditions, and pretty much it's about like our freedom.
Na festivalu je mnogo priča o putovanjima preko zemalja i granica, o otkrićima i samosvijesti, ali glavno putovanje publike je odluka šta gledati u izuzetno bogatoj ponudi.
Then you come across a guy who's a British, Irish, Palestinian working doctor who's also a comedian and a clown.
My dream is to be able to make a show that will make anyone anywhere in the world laugh. That's really what I want. I kind of wanted to explore my own identity a little bit, and that identity is very complicated. It was for me, it was a first-hand experience of how different the differences in the people who make up this country are. Well, I don't think it's unique to the people being British. I think it's just something that people aren't familiar with, and that's to be expected. And so my job is to bridge that gap and to sort of say, hey guys, come on this journey with me. I know it's unfamiliar, I know it's a bit different, but come on this journey with me, it'll be worth it.
Thank you very much.
To je sve u ovom izdanju Al Jazeera Svijeta. Naredno je za 7 dana, a do tada lijepi pozdrav!